During his last encounter with Brainiac, Lex Luthor, Superman's greatest foe, ended up losing his memories, but what happens when they all end up coming back at the worst possible time? Well, let's hop into the pages of Superman Lex Luthor Special issue number 1, courtesy of Joshua Williamson, and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we join the story, Lena, Luthor's not-so-distant anymore estranged daughter, is trying to help him regain his memories through the use of music therapy, which is an actual real thing that they use in the real world to try and help Alzheimer's patients recover their memories. To do this, Lena has bought her father a piano, especially because she remembers hearing stories from her grandmother that Lex actually played in his youth and was pretty damn good at it, though sadly he isn't right now. The old Luthor and his memories sadly seeming further away than ever before. Now while all this is going on, Superman ends up getting a call from Mr. Terrific to come and meet him on the Watchtower. It seems that Terrific has been hard at work trying to figure out how to send messages to the brand new Absolute Earth. Yeah, you'll remember that Darkseid created that the last time he was on the Watchtower, and he basically mollywopped the space-time continuum so hard. DC ended up with its own ultimate universe. Here's the thing though, Terrific is afraid that he might not have the right mind to solve this riddle. He'll need to go to some unethical places that he's not exactly comfortable with, but he does know one person who might actually be able to make the difference in this situation, a person he worked with very much on trying to crack the totality problem from not so long ago. Terrific is of course talking about Lex Luthor, and Superman is understandably pretty conflicted on the whole thing. Luthor was his greatest foe, the mastermind of multiple atrocities from over the decades, but also he is a genius and his big brain could be really useful right now if pointed in the right direction. But is it even right for Superman to want that Luthor back here and now? That's kind of the thesis statement of this entire issue. We're also treated to several flashbacks throughout this story that help reinforce and expand upon Lex Luthor's time in Smallville. Yeah, that was one of Joshua Williamson's big ideas, returning Lex to his most original origin. Wherein he's from Kansas too, this issue also is sure to reinforce the fact that Lionel Luthor, Lex's dad, was a drunken monster, a small man, who resented his son's genius because it only further put up a magnifying glass to the fact that he never actually did anything with his own life. I find it funny that the totality is actually mentioned in the same story, wherein they do a big factory reset on Lionel because he was actually a huge part of that Scott Snyder totality story originally, but I digress. Where is Luthor right now, you might be wondering? Well, he's on a date in the park with Mercy Graves. One of the upsides of losing his memory is that he lost a lot of his old unfeeling callousness and overprotectiveness. He's actually opened himself up now, and so far things actually seem to be going pretty good with him and Mercy. Sadly, the other people in Metropolis aren't nearly as quick to forgive and forget. They end up throwing hot coffee in Luthor's face, and I mean, hey, can you blame them? How many times has he held the city or even the planet hostage? How many regular, everyday Metropolis citizens are dead because of him? And it seems that Luthor is indeed genuine when he says that he feels horrible about all of the sins committed by his old self. He says old self because, again, that feels like a different person a lifetime ago. Superman runs off the angry crowd before eventually trying to ask for Luthor's help with this whole Absolute Earth issue. And once again, Luthor says that he can't, that he's not the man he used to be, he's not nearly as smart, he can't think in the same way. And even if he could, would that actually be a good thing? I mean, after all, how many times has Luthor tried and failed to kill Superman himself? Clark reiterates that he's a man who's always believed in redemption and in second chances. Yes, Luthor was a horrible human being, but he also went to jail for his crimes and was actively trying to find redemption through helping Superman. It's in the next exchange, though, Luthor ends up accidentally giving away the whole game when he says to Superman, "I don't know how you could ever have believed me." Only for Superman to very quickly catch, "Don't you mean him, not me? I thought that was a lifetime ago. I thought you were another man." Yes, it would seem that the music therapy is actually working much more than anyone could possibly have ever have guessed, and that maybe Luthor actually is unlocking more of his memories than even he wants to admit. It's after that we're treated to the finale of the piano story. We see Lex's drunken father chase him out of the house one night in a jealous rage, saying that the boy is unnatural, and that not even he could invent what Luthor invented. And hey, what did he invent? Well, some sort of interstellar music box. Yes, it would seem that Lex's love of music inspired him to share it with the rest of the world, particularly literally the song that his mother taught him on the piano, the song that has been unlocking his memories this whole time. A distraught little Lex runs out into the field and plays the music box for the first time, its tune actually only being picked up by the only alien on Earth, who just so happens to be a baby Clark, just a few farms away, Ma and Pa Kent not actually being able to get him to sleep those first few nights. That is until he heard this song, meaning that Superman and Lex Luthor's lives have actually been much more entwined much earlier than either men even knew. And in the dark of night, when no one is around, a very conflicted Luthor decides to take to the piano to see if he can actually play this song again. Even though he knows doing so could very well open the floodgates, and once he does, there will be no going back for him. Though perhaps there was always no going back for him, perhaps the old Lex was always fated to return one way or another. Mr. Terrific calls up Superman and Superwoman and is overjoyed, saying that a guardian angel finally solved their absolute Earth communication problem, and wouldn't you know it, much like Grant Morrison had set up in their own multiversal work in DC, the key to multiversal communication is right up there with multiversal travel, and that is it's all about notes. You just gotta find the right tune and play it, and speaking of, as the comic comes to an end, both Superman and Lois end up hearing a very familiar tune emanating from Lex's home. It's a song that Clark admits he hasn't heard since he was a child, but it's a song that comes with a very bittersweet double meaning. Lex is playing this song, which means that he has once again regained all of his memories, for better and for worse, as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Superman Lex Luthor Special issue number 1, everybody, and I really gotta hand it to Joshua Williamson between this and the Superwoman special from a couple weeks ago. They really have become these unexpected treats that do a great job actually expanding on everything that Williamson is doing in his main Superman book in a fun and compelling kind of way. I think we all knew one way or another Lex Luthor was going to come back. He was going to break bad all over again and return to his old ways, because this is comic books and the status quo is always returned to. But man alive, if they were going to give him his memories back, I can't think of a more creative and more heart-tugging story to do it. One of the most defining characteristics of Lex Luthor as a villain is that he doesn't love anything but himself. Even his own daughter he struggles to love, even though he knows he's supposed to. This issue turns the clock back and shows us that Luthor actually did love something once upon a time. He loved music, he loved playing the piano with his mother and all the warm memories that went with it. So obviously that would be the key to unlocking everything he repressed, but I love it's not as simple as that. Luthor is actually quite conflicted about whether or not he wants to get his memories back. He might be more helpful to Superman and the world, but at the same time, he was really enjoying getting to live with a second chance and a clear conscience, but I guess no one can give you a second chance at redemption. You have to find that on your own. Really, my only big problem with this story is that it's built around the power of music, and yet because this is a comic book, I can't actually hear it. Which is a shame too, because I think a story like this is just crying out for the adaptation treatment. You know, one where they can create a really beautiful piece of music from scratch, or maybe use a beloved old standard. In my headcanon, they were playing Ave Maria. That's the most beautiful piece of music I can think of. Overall, I would give this issue a well-deserved 8 out of 10. It was a great way to kick off my comic reading week, and I can't wait for the next issue of Superman to tie it all together. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow, and help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.